What's up, everyone? We are ready to launch the Rocky Mountain Retreat, BJJ and Mindset Retreat here in Colorado. It's going to be March 17th through the 19th. So we are doing an early bird special. So head over to the website, link in bio. It should be on my website as well, elliottmarshall.com. Click on programs, Rocky Mountain Retreat. It should be under there. You will get all of the information. So early bird special, couple $100 off if you want, and are the first 10 to sign up, then you will get the early bird special. So elliottmarshall.com, BJJ, 7 hours of jiu-jitsu, 4 hours of mindset, a nice outdoor, maybe winter, spring-ish excursion. Let's go. What's up, guys? This is former UFC fighter Elliott Marshall, and you are listening to The Blueprint. I believe that there's a blueprint of how the most successful people structure their lives. They don't all do it the same. They don't all do the same things. And on this podcast, you're going to hear inspirations, motivations, and stories about how they go through their life. These stories will give you clues and tricks of exactly how you can discover your passion, find your power, and then go give your purpose to the world. Thank you so much for listening. Let's jump into this week's episode. This episode of the podcast is with Stuart Phillips. Stuart is a PhD and researcher in the field of health. He has his degree in biochemistry and looks a lot at, the question he told me not to ask that I asked right away. How much protein should I take in? We talked about that. We talked about that very little. We mostly talked about how he does what he does, what this word research means, and what it is that the most of us are doing when we search the internet and then say we researched. So had a great talk. Really enjoyed it. Without further ado, here we go. Stuart Phillips. Stuart, how much protein should a person have?
I thought you said we weren't going to talk about
that. Just a little inside joke for the listener between me and Stuart. Everyone knows I do my podcast a little different, where I'm not just about what the person does, but how they do it. Yeah. And Stuart, you were saying that you don't know if you can talk more about how much protein a person should eat.
Man, like it's getting a bit redundant. It's it's what I do, right? So I'm happy to say it's probably more than is recommended, but most people are probably eating enough. So let's, after that, it gets the details get a little bit nitty gritty and probably less important.
Why do you get asked this question, Stuart? Right? Because obviously this must be the field you are in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell us a little about yourself first to start, and then we'll go from there. So, no one's asking me how much protein they should eat. So
fair enough. I'm a professor here at McMaster University. That's in Hamilton, Ontario. You and I were chatting. So it's about a 45-minute drive outside of Toronto, about another hour, and you're in Buffalo, New York. We don't get the snow here. They get it all down in Buffalo for some weird lake effect reason. 26 years. The research program that I've run here has really been the tissue in the middle is skeletal muscle. We're interested in how to get younger people bigger, stronger. Obviously, protein is a part of that, but lifting weights and going to the gym is by far the bigger driver. And now it's sort of shifted as my research interests have changed, and probably as I've gotten older as well, we're interested in more mature people in trying to keep muscle and strength on these people as they get older, because that means an independent life. And, again, it's the same kind of questions. How much protein do they need? What supplements should they take? And the nitty gritty is probably far less important than get to the gym, do it regularly, do it with a fair degree of effort, and things tend to fall into place. But, that's a boring narrative for people to hear. But protein is a big part of it.
I want to go to a different topic real fast, because you said this word twice now since we've been talking, maybe three. Research.
Yes.
This is such a controversial topic this day, because I don't know if you knew, Stuart, but I did the research on my Google search.
All right.
Yeah. And I would love to tell you all about this.
Yeah, sure.
How do you feel about this word research and how the public gets to use it now because of this thing, this amazing thing that's allowing us to have this conversation right now, that is the internet, right?
Yeah.
But also, we're all educated about everything. What do you want to know? I'll tell you about, I'll tell you why the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, is happening and wrong or right.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting times that we live in. I spend a lot of time talking to the students that work with our group and that I teach. The difference between the types of evidence that are available, but the internet and the search, note search that you can do on Google provides instantaneous results. And it wasn't until a few years ago somebody pulled back the cover and said, well, your search results aren't the same as my search results because, hey, look, somebody's spying on what it is that we click on and everything. So,
man, my friend and I actually did this. We actually did that. Like, because I was like, dude, just type these fucking words into Google, man. Just type these words. You're not typing. And he's like, yes, I am.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to the article that I was reading until like the 7th page of his search.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a pretty big gap. And I mean, I don't know what the percentage of people who go beyond the first page of Google results is, but it's pretty low, right? We want instantaneous access to information. And, you were asking if I'd ever listened to some of your podcasts, and I have. I listened to the one with Jim Krieger, who's a friend, colleague. We occasionally run into each other at conferences, and he talked about something that I consider pretty important, which is the dilution of expertise. Is that there are so many online experts who do their research by just simply taking Google search results and reading and sort of just inculcating themselves with that opinion and talking to similar people on Twitter, Instagram, you name it, Discord, doesn't matter. That you can get a pretty narrow opinion and view, and it's just hard to find balance. We try not to do that and clearly start out with an unbiased approach, but I mean, everybody has a little bit of bias. I think that's probably safe to say, but we try and cure ourselves of it.
Well, that's why you need other people doing the same thing that you are to see if the results turn out the same, correct?
Exactly. And that's why they call it research and not just search.
Right. And tell me if I'm wrong here. Research actually means with doing the studies.
Yeah, I mean that's the currency we deal in. I apply to granting agencies. I get money from industry sponsors, so I'm dirty in that sense. But we do research that is free from somebody else sort of saying this is what you're going to do, and we reserve the right to publish this research. Whether it shows what we think it should show or not. Whether something works or not. And it goes through processes of peer review, which, are good and bad. And we can all argue about that process. But hopefully in the end, you end up with a source of information that people have access to that is, I won't say free from bias. That would be naive, but has less bias than a Google search result, for example.
So what should we call this word, in your opinion, like that I was describing, where I get on the internet, I read the top, let's even say that they're 10 good articles, but I'm just reading them, right? I read article 1 or link 1, and then I read and because that's what the public is calling researched. I researched it,
Sure.
What is that word instead? Because it's not research, right? It's just the wrong word, because research is like getting in there, doing the study, seeing what happens when subject A, B, C, yada, yada, right? So they're just two different words. What should we call that word?
Reviewing.
Reviewing.
You're just looking at it. You're actually viewing it if you just click on it. And like most people, you read the abstract or the synopsis or the takeaway message. So that's viewing. You're reviewing, I guess, if you're sort of doing it a few times, you're maybe getting a little bit deeper, but you're not doing research until you're going beyond that surface level, I think, search, if that's what you're doing, or in our view, you're not doing research as we would define it, unless you're actually doing the studies itself. And so there's a degree of insight and expertise that comes with actually doing that I don't think anybody can really capture by just reading. And so, it's in the doing of it. I think that gives you insight and gives you a deeper sense of what is and what isn't good to do in terms of practice.
That's a really great thing. I'm going to use this from now on. Because like you laid that out very well, and maybe I just wasn't asking the question skillfully before, but that was a really good answer. We're just reviewing it or viewing. I really like that.
I just think that most people think it's research. I'm doing my research on using a computer and a search engine, and that's a form of research. There's no question about that. Lots of journalists would sort of say, "Oh, I'm doing research for my article." But I think that, then they go and they talk to people occasionally like me and say, what, tell me what happened in this. And because I read it and maybe I didn't quite understand that, but, a lot of people don't go beyond that sort of step. There are some that do. They have podcasts and everything else like that, and they ask intelligent questions. They bring, like you're doing here, hopefully, an expert, quote unquote, on and to get insight. But if you're just reading it, you're interpreting it through your own filters and maybe without the level of training and knowledge and everything that allows you to completely understand what's going on.
Another hot topic word that you just said, an expert. Because we have lost this, right? Because everyone's claiming, look, even in my field, even in my field, like, you see it all the time, or I do, like I teach martial arts, and you see somebody wearing a black belt.
Yeah.
And teaching something on the internet and putting it out.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? That's almost disingenuous what you're putting out.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get somebody hurt. So everyone's an expert.
So in that vein, I guess my question back to you see that stuff, like that must piss you off, right?
Oh, it drives me crazy. One of my friends does it. I call him out every time. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you teaching? Like, what are you doing? Like, why not just teach it how it was taught to us? Because that's correct.
I mean, it happens. It's a daily occurrence. And I mean, so I do work in nutrition, protein. We talked about that. I do work in exercise, muscle, and weightlifting and everything. And I mean, how many world experts do you think there are in nutrition and weightlifting? I mean,
on the internet, a lot. Yeah, I mean, just like go
millions,
look.
Right? Who, I don't take my shirt off and pose on Instagram.
But that's all you have to do. That makes you the expert.
But that's it. That's your entry level card. And not that that's a bad way to promote yourself, but there are people who that is how they promote themselves and their knowledge. And
it's a very interesting, like this expert thing is a very, and then there's even levels of expertise, right? Like
sure.
But you could still be an expert without being like the top dog.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to be so elitist, if that's the right way to say, to be an expert, you have to go to school, get a PhD, and do the types of, I've been doing this, been my life for a long time. There are certainly people that are very, very capable of doing research independent of the work that's done and figuring things out for themselves. And so I don't mean to, just paint with a broad stroke and say, if you don't do research, you can't be an expert. That's not the case. But the number of people that do even that level of research really is pretty low. So let's just say that, let's just say that there are experts and there are people who have turned themselves into experts, but there are a lot more people who call themselves experts who are not.
You have to get by the bias of the internet, which is so hard on the way that you're describing.
Yeah, it's hard baked into the system now.
Yeah, you can't help it. Yeah. I look, even my Instagram algorithm, I slow down, like without a doubt. Every good-looking girl on my Instagram feed, I slow down. Like how long I stay on there, whatever. It's absolutely longer than I do the other posts, without a doubt. I'm a heterosexual male. Yeah. So if you hit my explore button, it's all fucking bikini girls.
Yeah.
And I don't really look at that many bikini girls, but I definitely slow down.
But so you're an expert in bikini girls. I mean,
man, what do you want to know about them? What do you want to know about girls' butts? I will tell you, right? Because that's just what it's really interesting how they like get it to like the millisecond.
Yeah.
I might even scroll back up to be like, yo, damn, she was hot.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly. Like,
which is just natural.
Yeah. And again, so there, comes in and, the word that I think a lot of people are becoming more familiar with is to say it's the echo chamber, right? You think you're doing research, but actually you're just held within this, little box that Google, Facebook, Twitter, has said, well, you click on these things. So we're going to show you more of these. And you just believe that then that becomes, so it's self-fulfilling.
So they can sell advertising. So they can make money.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So it's just so these companies can make money. It's a very weird thing. So this journey to expert for you.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Yeah. It's kind of a fun story. I never really get tired of telling it because it has this, weird moment. I'm sure you can relate. So I was an athlete. I played, the ice hockey, rugby, football. So if you smash somebody, that was my sport. And they didn't have MMA as far as it exists now.
Good for you. For you.
Yeah, probably.
Good for you.
Not so good for I have 3 sons. And so the middle one he's a wrestler and loves MMA. And I keep telling him, I'm like, wrestling, fine. MMA, I don't know, like, you've got some education, you got some good stuff in between your ears. Might not be the best path to go for. Anyway,
it's the best and worst thing I ever did with my life.
Yeah.
And it totally worked out for me. Like I have an amazing life because of it. I have an amazing life, but God, it sucked.
Yeah.
And like, you don't know what all this damage has done. Like you're seeing all the guys, like the first generation guys, a couple have killed themselves now. One just killed its girlfriend, right? So you're seeing it because we didn't train the smartest. So try to steer him another way. But at the same time, you can't tell him what to do because he's going to do it.
They got to discover it by themselves. So let's just say, my chief sport was rugby. That was the sport I enjoyed playing.
That ain't that safe either.
No, it's not. No, it's diabolically, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And, put a helmet on your head and smash your head against a wall 100 times.
Sure.
That sounds stupid, but smash against another guy's head. That's football, right? So, so I was playing rugby and in my undergrad, and I 100% thought I was going to go to medical school and I was going to, take care of people like idiots like me who play rugby. And I broke my leg right before my senior year. And it meant that I couldn't play. So I had way more time. So I went and took a thesis class in my last year of undergraduate. And it just opened up this door to research that, I was like, wow, this is.
What were you getting your undergrad in?
Biochemistry.
Okay.
So, and that's what I'm trained in. And it was this sort of epiphany experience. And I know it doesn't happen like that for a lot of people, but it really did open up a lot of different avenues in terms of, so my university's just decided that right now is the time to test an alarm system.
I can't hear it.
Okay, good. Anyway, so the long and short was, I just started I did a master's degree. And at the end of that, all I knew was I enjoyed it so much that I didn't want to stop. So I did a PhD. And then, I still at that time thought, I'm going to go back to medical school. This is just a phase, everything else like that. Until, somebody says, well, you want to apply for this job? And I was like, sure. And then you get the job and they give you the desk and everything. I'm like, holy cow, I'm a university professor. Here I am 30 odd years later, and it seems like a pretty smart decision to have made, maybe.
I think it's amazing. I think the world's
broke my leg and I was devastated at the time. I thought this is just, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? And then it opened up an opportunity for me that is,
that you didn't know existed.
Yes.
That you didn't know existed.
Yeah. Well, I did, but I thought, that's not really what I'm into.
You didn't know existed for you, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't your path,
Yeah, exactly.
It's very interesting, like how you say that. Mine started with devastation too, like my real career that I do now. with, being released by the UFC because I wasn't good enough,
right.
And then you're devastated. You're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? Like, what is my life going to look like?
Sure.
For me, I was 30, Stuart, I was 30, 31. Yeah. And you're like, oh God, I've never
washed up, man.
Washed up. I've never made a resume, right? I have not, I've only worked these dumb jobs.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how that happens. And it's very interesting how, what you fell in love with, for example, is my greatest fear. Like I have nightmares about being back in school, college, and you love it. And I just want people to understand, man, just like two guys who've both done fine for themselves. We're not, Warren Buffett by any means, but no. It can be vastly different what you love, and they're both okay. So where did you go?
It's a great journey. I look back on it and people say, what would you do different? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. But I'm fortunate, blessed, call it whatever you want, good karma, kismet, to have found the path that I did. And the way I found it just wasn't the best. But, sometimes good things happen from crappy events. It's the way.
Yeah. And you can make it happen too.
Absolutely.
You can make it happen. Yeah. So 30 years ago, what did this field look like?
It seemed a lot simpler. You could read one of about, I would say, 6 to 10 different sort of journals in my field, scientific journals, and you could get a good pulse of what was going on in the science. Fast forward 30 years, the internet, the proliferation of journals. Now I would say it's closer to, you probably need to monitor about 150 to 200 journals. Like nobody can do that, that give you information. So there's a massive amount of information out there now. And I always use the phrase, I kind of borrow it, steal it actually from Nate Silver's book of, finding the signal in the noise, like what's real, true signal, and then what's just, static, and it's, which experts, which journals, which articles do you read to really understand what's going on? And it's much more difficult now. There's so much more information. And I think that is the biggest change that I've seen in 30 years. It definitely has altered the face of what it is that we call science.
It's so hard because I'm going to use the pandemic as an example.
It's a great example.
It is
and a terrible example at the same time.
Yeah. And I want to go early on in the pandemic when there were those 2 doctors in California in March, like the end of March, saying that this really wasn't real.
Yeah.
But look, they're doctors, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're medical doctors. They're sitting there in their white coats.
Yeah.
And the pandemic is such a weird thing because millions of people died.
Yeah.
And now it is just pretty much a common cold.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that at first.
Absolutely.
We didn't know that at first. And do I agree with everything? God, no. Do I agree? Like that happened, but we needed to be safe. And there was people coming out very, very early, just on a whim, a whim.
Yeah.
Doctors saying, how does Elliot Marshall sitting in his office down here, figure out which doctor to listen? Like, I don't know. How can I tell the 2 guys that Rogan had on that they're fucking wrong on this?
So what's the signal? Who's telling the truth, quote unquote? And I think the hard people, the pandemic revealed to me a lot of, I'll just call it misunderstanding of, science. They say science has been proven wrong by scientists. I'm like, science is never an absolute answer. Like gravity, maybe, yes, it exists.
But we're willing for it to be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Newton says this, Einstein says, hey, it's a little different. Stephen Hawking says, hey, Einstein was partially right, but here's something new. I mean, so even things that we take for absolute certainty. I mean, nothing's 100%, but gravity's pretty
Right.
good. Mortality is holding constant 100%. Like,
We all die.
nobody's skipping it. But the pandemic was new, absolutely new. And people said, oh, it's the same as, and I'm like, it's a different virus than influenza. It's not the same. So the human reaction to me in that circumstance should be protect yourself. Like, definitely try and weather the storm, and let's sort of see what unfolds. But a lot of people are like, oh, it's nothing. This is a cold. Coronaviruses cause colds, and I'm like, yeah, this one is it's a little. Anyway, the long story short, science is a process. It's not an absolute thing. We will be, you and I will be long gone, and our kids will still be looking at data that is a retrospective analysis of this COVID pandemic, global pandemic, and trying to figure out what happened, what do we do right, what do we do wrong, and there will be lots of things that we did right and lots of things that we did wrong. Always do better, but science gives you the answer to that. Searching on the internet and finding the opinion with which you're aligned, and only that opinion, which is often offered on popular social media channels, and Dr. Rogan, in quotation marks, would say, this is it, but rarely do you get one person speaking against another person. It's just these are the people I'm bringing on. This aligns with my opinion. So it's a great echo chamber for that opinion.
I think, and I will say, I do think Rogan gets a little bit of a bad rap, slightly.
Yeah.
I think his number one thing is he just wasn't realizing his position. He wasn't realizing how influential he really was. That, and I've said this a couple of times, that like, whatever, his doctor told him to take some fucking ivermectin.
Yeah.
Okay, great, fine. Who cares? But his doctor, who he paid like 10 grand to go see, or however massive amount of money that he pays for this doctor, which is true, gave him a human dose at a level that was safe. And, and a host of other medicines. Yeah. You have no clue which one of them worked.
Absolutely.
Right. You have no clue. And most likely Joe was a young, healthy male and fine.
Yeah.
But you had these fucking retards in like Nebraska go, I got some fucking horse American and I'm going to go shop, like, because they just listen, So, and I think I hope he learned from that mistake of his, of realizing how much influence he really does fucking have on the world.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I think you're right.
Well, look what happened to him afterwards, right? He came out and said, I will never have Donald Trump on my podcast.
Right.
Never. Right. I will never have him on my podcast. That guy should never be president.
Yeah.
And all these people that were listening to him because of the pandemic shit were like, what?
Yeah.
We love Donald Trump. What are you talking about? And like,
come on, listen to this guy. Yeah.
Then they got like, well, fuck this guy. Right. Until then they found out he endorsed Bernie Sanders, who's like the epitome of, So Rogan's a weird study. So I just think he was missing his influence, how much influence he has. And, he gets high. His podcast started, he gets high. He talks to his friends. He's a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think you maybe he had a misunderstanding of the degree of influence that he had. I wouldn't disagree with that. I do think that he's now maybe got a firmer grasp of that. So
yes, he's stopped a little bit.
You're playing God to a certain extent, right? When you're preaching to people and changing their opinions to the degree and the veracity of the opinion that people can accept something else. And maybe that's been the other learning from the pandemic politically, whether you agree or disagree with vaccinations, whether you agree or disagree with locking down cities and economies and that sort of thing. It's just been like it's gray, man. Like, so much in life is gray. Very little in life is black and white. But the pandemic really showed the blacks and the whites, and to use them in the colors.
Yeah, not literally. Yeah.
And people just you couldn't agree now, and you living in the US, I think, and to some degree in Canada as well, politically, you can't debate politics anymore. And similarly, like you can't debate the pandemic. Like it's just,
well, because you just get angry. Like
yeah, exactly.
you go right, like you end up at you're a shitty person rather
Yeah.
than we
Yeah.
just disagree.
Yeah. It's a
That's where you end
reflection
up.
on you as a person. Yeah. And your opinion is wrong. And in sharing your opinion, you're doing other people a disservice. So
Let's stay on slightly the pandemic topic.
yeah.
Slightly in the sense that what we saw with the pandemic was to be healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Because the majority of people that were dying, by a vast majority, were the unhealthy. And especially as we aged. And this is something that you are that E word expert at again. Is it particularly for males, or is it more towards like the general population?
General population, but I mean, I think we're as guilty as anybody else who does research. We do more research on men than we do on women. We're trying desperately to sort of redress that point and doing a lot more in women because, I mean, to me, a healthy lifestyle, exercise, eat right, you do that and you have a good circle of friends, the social connection side of things, a lot falls into place. So
I want to go towards the supplement topic with you, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
The not over-the-counter supplement topics.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
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 I take testosterone.
Yeah.
I have an alpha thalassemia that we discovered when I was fighting.
Yeah.
So that sucks for me, especially in the sport that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now as an older 40, 42, I've been on testosterone for a couple of years because of it, because I do not produce enough red blood cells, which then doesn't make me have enough testosterone. And so, yes, but in general, how do you feel about this, these anti-aging things, peptides, HGH, testosterone replacement therapy, things like this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we look at the situation of menopause in women and the use of hormone replacement therapy, to alleviate symptoms of the menopause in women, and again, that's not an easy topic to sort of speak about because some people think that it's fine, others say that it's the downside of it, and there are downsides, risks for cancers and et cetera. Don't balance out with the potential good. You could argue a similar type of thing as you're saying to do with testosterone replacement therapy in men.
You definitely feel better.
Yeah, well, and that's, a lot of people who subscribe to testosterone replacement therapy and, the range of what's normal is so huge that, even if you're down near the bottom and you're 2 points above, being hypogonadal, quote unquote, we're not going to give you T because, you're here, but you're still in the normal range. So I don't disagree with that argument. I think that there is always a risk when you're taking a hormone that is anabolic in nature, because controlled anabolism, no problem. Everything, cells divide, everything.
Okay, you're losing me on anabolism.
Yeah, so anabolism, growth.
Okay.
Cellular growth.
Okay.
Controlled growth, the way it's supposed to happen, all good. Uncontrolled growth, that's cancer. It's just multiplying cells where that they shouldn't. And I suppose you have to balance that potential risk against other issues, but appropriately monitored, done in a clinical sense and having a good reason for it, I don't have any issues with testosterone replacement therapy. Should it be given to all men? I would disagree.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, my doctor, I get tested every 3 months. So
Sure.
Quarterly, I get tested just to make sure that nothing's getting crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess my argument against testosterone replacement therapy is who's administering it, who's the expert.
Wow.
These low T centers where everyone has low testosterone.
Sure.
If you're not at 1100, then you're low. If you're 800, you're fucking low.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, that's not low.
Yeah.
I was down in the 350s, I believe, and that's too low for somebody my age.
Yeah. No, there's no question. I also point out to people that the normal quote unquote aging process is that testosterone declines, and there's a reason for that. I mean, you don't want men who are in their 60s and 70s ostensibly reproducing. They can. Men produce sperm till the day they die.
Look, say it. We're douchebags, right?
Yeah, we are.
Men are assholes, and if we want to be reproducing when we're 60, that means we're going to be going after 20-year-olds, and we're already weird enough when we're 60.
So you hit the nail on the head. You're going to be going after a woman that's younger and designed obviously and ready to get pregnant, take the pregnancy to term, deliver a healthy child. It's not necessarily the case where you're going to have issues, but the way biology works is that the menopause is, we're switching that process off. It's not necessary. You're done your childbearing, carrying, delivering years. And in men, it just doesn't happen. But I don't think that it's sort of the optimal way that, you want to sort of reverse age engineer somebody to say, we're going to give you the testosterone back and turn you into a 20 or 30-year-old and everything. But as you say, men are douchebags, and
we are. No, so, we're
and some is good, more is better, right?
Yeah.
So if some tea is good, look how much bigger and better. And I don't want to mention the Liver King, but there's a guy who took what he got from testosterone.
Nah, man, yeah, he was natural, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
liver and bull balls.
Yeah, that's what made that guy. Yeah. So, but again, plenty of people. Even after, and I'm not a big fan of him, clearly, for a lot of reasons. He's a liar, for starters. And I said, this is the reason why people shouldn't listen. And a lot of people said, but what he's saying is true. And I'm like, what part? But they were like, well, eating this and this. And I'm like, that's not true. And I've done research. And I'm like,
there, yeah. Well,
so there, I put my hands up, my palms up, and I'm you can only fight so many fights, right? So
yeah, I'm bad at it. Like every time I see my friend post a dumb video, on jiu-jitsu, like some self-defense shit, I send it to him. Like we have this group thread. I send it to him. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like that's not right. You have never tried that in a live scenario in your fucking life.
Yeah.
And we get into this big argument or this big long discussion, and I'm just, and I get stuck in it. I have to do better at it, of just like looking at it and going, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like when someone says the Liver King to you, and that's what we should be eating is testicle balls, dried testicle balls.
Yeah.
What should I?
I boil inside, but probably, my wife would say quick to anger, slow to forgive. That's me.
Me too.
Yeah, but it eats you up, right? And you've only got so much energy, and if it's pushed into those sorts of channels, I'm not as good a husband. I'm not as good a dad. I'm not as good a boss at work. I'm not as good an employee at work. And then, screw it. Like I just and social media. You said it. It's like somebody posts something, and that now has become. It can be a massive drain on your mental
existence, your existence, your mental health. Yeah.
And there are some people that's their thing. And as an academic, quote unquote, as a professor, I have I'll call it a decent social media profile in that I'm out there and I'm doing a few things, but I'm not, the Liver King. I'm not, name your favorite influencer. I don't have as many followers as those folks. So,
you didn't lie.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
You didn't lie. You didn't shoot $12,000 of steroids into your body a fucking month, get jacked like no one's ever been jacked before.
You
did it naturally and like told people to do something crazy, like eat fucking bull balls.
But that's that would shock anybody anymore is the really hilarious part is that people go, were you surprised? I'm like, were you? I get the same thing. An athlete tests positive for something and somebody says, were you surprised? And I'm like, no. What are you talking? Like, imagine trying to be this person and do what they do and do it as often as they do. And for 60 or 80 games, if you're an NBA or an NHL player, or, 5-6 months of the year, if you're an NFL player, and not take steroids, I mean, it's astonishing that they're still alive, a lot of these guys, right?
The argument for this is like, Stuart, let me ask you this question. If I had a pill
Yeah.
and you could take it and you would be 30% better at your job and quadruple your money, would you do it?
Like if there's no downside and it's not.
No, if there is a little downside, let's just say there's a little downside, like steroids. There's a little downside, but you would be 30% better and quadruple your money.
Yeah, sure.
You're fucking taking it, man. Look,
yeah.
Now look, the guy working at Walmart's not taking it. Because it doesn't matter how well, right? No, he probably is taking it. He's going to quadruple his money. Done. We're done right there, probably.
Yep.
You could be, if I gave you the pill and the pill was 30% worse at your job and quadruple your money, you're probably fucking taking it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe especially if on that one, but yeah. No. It's human nature.
Yeah, you can't help it.
Nature. I like, and that's my whole point is that people can't be surprised or, upset anymore. Like it's ridiculous. So I think that you just, there's a fine line between being critical, being skeptical, and then ultimately being cynical or jaded, but I cross that line on a daily basis now.
You and I are very similar, Stuart.
Yeah.
Man, I like to end the podcast with two questions. And this one is, I always give this preference. It's not to toot my own horn, in a sense. I just like to hear why people say yes to things and kind of get, and also kind of get us into this idea of an ROI doesn't have to be financial, or it doesn't, you don't know what an ROI is. So you're an academic. I'm fucking not. Right. I don't sound like one. If you listen to the podcast, it's not. I probably asked some questions where you're like, man, where'd that guy get that from? In your world.
Yeah.
So why take an hour out of your day to talk to some dude that you've never fucking talked to before? When you Google me, I'm punching somebody in the head. It's not really going to do anything for your day, for your business, for your work, right? It's going to bring you absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So I'll give you two quick answers.
Yeah.
So the first one is, I said to you, in 2022, I did 33 podcasts or something. And I got asked the same question repeatedly. I listened to your podcast and I knew that I wasn't going to get asked the same question, although you started off asking about protein. That was a joke. I get it. So that's probably number one. Number two, when you sent me the first email, I Googled, I saw who you were, and I said to my middle son, who's the wrestler, blah, 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 like, this guy contacted me, goes, I know that guy. So I get, every now and again, I get a little bit of cred with my kids.
All right.
Not much, but he was like, you got to do it.
There you go.
So I was like,
tell your son I said.
So I'm doing this for me. I don't like, I like to, I don't get me wrong. I like to talk about myself and what I do, but, and you say you're not an academic, but man, I hang out with a lot of guys who share the same sort of language and pattern. We could have a beer or coffee and everything. I think we get along fine.
I'm an extrovert for sure.
Absolutely.
Extroverts, we can get along with just about everybody, right? As long as you're not an asshole, we can get it done. And most likely I have, so I have fighting skills. So if you're an asshole, I'm going to let you know you're an asshole.
Yeah. No, I'm not messing with you.
Tell your middle son I appreciate it. So
yeah, he was pretty hyped. He
How old is he?
Reads that stuff. He's 21.
He's 21. All right. Does he want some gear? We'll talk out offline. I can send him some stuff if he wants. I mean, I have bags of shit, man, that he can't buy. So if he wants it, let me know.
I'll get back to you. I couldn't even tell you what he wants. I don't know, but
cool.
He definitely wants me to leave him the cologne. I'll tell you that.
All right. All right. My second question is, man, I believe everyone has a unique thing about them, a power that they go out and they give to the world, and then the world gives so much back to them, especially when you can, if you can harness that thing about you.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get asked to do a lot of talks, and I do pride myself on being able to deliver a good presentation, usually topics. So it's protein, muscle, aging, exercise, that sort of thing. And the feedback I get from that is, and people say, oh, you get paid to do that. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, it's an academic's job. I go to scientific meetings. I give public lectures. I get my travel expenses, but I don't get paid. Occasionally I do get paid. Don't get me wrong, for my expert opinion. I'm not as excited about that, but I love talking to people. And then, even if it's only 10 or 20 people afterwards come up and tell me, hey, this was really great. I'm that makes me feel good. I feel like I've done a service, and maybe I've changed somebody's life a little bit or something. Who knows? I don't know. But I feel good after that.
I feel very similar to you about the whole not get paid thing. I have seven martial arts schools, and I teach at one of them. So, I mean, I definitely make, money from the schools.
Yeah.
But not like when I show up.
Yeah.
Like I teach because I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I teach because I love it. It's got nothing to do with money.
Absolutely.
Zero. Like I'd make the same
passion,
money.
Yeah. Heart and whatever right in your center, whatever it is you feel. And, lots of other people on your podcast have said the same thing. If you're not excited or you don't feel passionate about what you're doing, then get out and find something that you do.
This is the whole point of the pod. That is the blueprint right there. Yeah, you named it. Find something you're passionate about, and I end every, I put out a Monday motivational every Monday, mm-hmm. And you find your passion. You discover your passion, you then go harness and, find your power, this thing that makes you amazing. You combine the two, and then you go give that. That's your purpose. I like to say, go give that shit to the world, and when you give it, when you do the other two things and then do the third, it gives you so much back. The world, and I don't know if it's money or what it is, but it just gives you so much back. And it's just amazing when it happens.
Karma or something like that. And pay it forward, and all of those trite expressions are, really, you nail on the head right there.
Yeah. Stuart, thanks so much, man. Tell everyone, your social media handles if they would like to argue with you about what research is and all that stuff, or ask you a question about how much protein they should eat. So
that's so we argue about that a lot. Although I don't call it an argument, but a back and forth. I'm MacKin Prof, MacKinProf, McMaster kinesiology professor. It's pretty unoriginal. On Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Facebook as Stuart Phillips, PH.D. And I'm easy to find on the internet if you Google me. I made a faux pas and put my WhatsApp number on Facebook the other day. And so I got tons of messages from people. They're like, hey, and I'm like, who are you? But so I'm not hard to find.
Somehow when your phone number ends up on one of those apps, you're just like, fuck my life.
Yeah, it was bad. And then somebody finally said, they go, did you mean to put your phone number? I was like, no. Anyway, so corrected that. Hopefully not too many crazies give me a call, but I'm out there a little bit. I don't play on social media as much as, people who live on it do, but I'm probably out there enough that I'll hopefully get back to you.
All right. Stuart, thanks so much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. I hope this was different than all of your other podcasts that you have done, so
definitely different. No, it's been my pleasure. I know you and I, we've missed each other a couple of times. We had quite when, but it's been very refreshing to talk about something other than protein requirements.
And we talked about health. So, we stayed there. It was great.
For sure.
Guys, as always, Stuart has his unique gift that he goes out and he gives to the world. It's power. I have my own unique power that I go out and I give to the world. Please don't go out in the world and try to be Stuart. Don't go out in the world. Definitely don't go out in the world and try to be me. Please go out there and find your own power, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found something useful that you can take and implement into your life. Don't forget to head over to wherever you are listening to this podcast and leave a review. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, go follow me on social media at FireMarshal205 on Instagram. Leave a comment, anything that you would like there. And as always, if you think this would be useful for somebody else that you know for their life, send it their way. That would be greatly appreciated. That's it for this episode, guys. I hope you all have a great day and you go step into that power so that you can give your purpose to the world.